actually so nervous about doing this video, and I wasn't sure whether to do it or not, but I did a poll on Twitter and it was a unanimous yes for me to do this video. So here we go. If you watch my channel a lot, you know that my book reviews and my discussion reviews are always separate. But for the purpose of this video, and you will understand why in a minute if you haven't already read the title, this is going to be a mismatch of the two. I completely dropped on this book because I watch another booktuber called Amber over at the Mile Long Bookshelf. I will link down to her below. And she did a review with this author talking about this book, and I was completely sold on the fact that it is a British LGBT novel. It wasn't until I watched this interview that I realised how many LGBT books are set in America. The book that inspired this video is Noah Can't Even by Simon James Green. This book follows a 16-year-old boy called Noah who is very much the bottom of the school food chain, and he wants nothing more than just be an ordinary teenage boy. So he goes to this party with the plans of kissing this beautiful girl called Sophie, but he ends up kissing his best friend Harry, and that interaction is caught on video by the school bully, who then goes on to blackmail him. There is so much more that goes on in this story, but I feel like you need to read it and experience it for yourself. But the main kind of premise of the story that kicks everything else off is this particular event that happens. Long story short, I absolutely loved this book. It's so accurately teenage. Like, there were points when I was reading it and the inner monologue that Noah was having, I was just cringing so hard at anyway. But then I remembered that I used to be like that. I have not been a teenager for quite a while. I am 24 this year, but I was cringing at some of the things that he was saying, and I was like, that's just such a teenage thing to say and to do. And even, I think you can even relate if you've gone through that process of getting to know someone prior to getting in a relationship, because some of the things were just, you have to read it to fully get a sense for that. But it was also absolutely hysterical. I was laughing out loud so many times, and it got to the point where even when I finished reading the book a few days after, whether I was out on the street on my own, or I was at work, or I was having coffee with my parents, I would just start laughing because I'd remembered something that happened in this book, and I couldn't tell anyone because this book has some really inappropriate moments to share. So I would have just looked even weirder if I'd been like, oh yeah, I'm laughing at this scene in this book. I think anyone who has been a teenager or is a teenager can relate to aspects of this book, and those are the best kinds of books when they are relatable. But for me, the aspects that I connected to the most was discovering your sexuality, and as you can tell by the rest of the title of this video, that's what I'm going to be talking a bit about today. I am so nervous. It feels like I am coming out again. If you didn't already know, I am bisexual, which means that I am attracted to two genders. The term changes, the definition changes a lot and has gotten a lot more inclusive over the years, but when I discovered the term, it was described as you are attracted to both men and women. I hate having to pinpoint the exact moment when I realised that I was not straight, but I guess if I would have to pinpoint it, it would be I started watching a show called One Tree Hill and was very interested in the character called Brooke, which is played by Sophia Bush. For a while I thought she was just my favourite character, but then I realised that I was focusing on her in a different way, and it was never a big revelation moment. It was one of those things where I was like, well, that's a thing now. And then a show on Disney Channel started called Hannah Montana, and I saw Miley Cyrus on that, and that just kind of cemented that more. It was never something that I really went through the process of just wearing myself out thinking about. I was just very much aware that I liked guys and I also liked girls. I had quite a few relationships in school, if you can even call them relationships, but my first serious one, the one that I identify as the most serious one, was with a girl. And when we got together, only one other person knew about that, and that was our other mutual best friend, because we got together at her sleepover, instantly making her a third wheel. But it was one of those things, and I remember it so vividly. We went out onto the corridor while my friend was at the toilet, and we admitted that we liked each other. And this girl said, "Do you want me to kiss you?" And I said yes, and we kissed and we started dating, and it was all wonderful and roses for a little while. We kept it completely secret apart from me, her, and obviously the best friend knowing, because we couldn't not tell her. Now we get on to the not so fun part to relive, but I was walking to class one day with the said best friend that already knew I was dating this girl. And one of my other, she was a friend, but not like a friend, if that makes sense. She was one of those people that you look back on it when you finish school and you go, I was only ever friends with them because I saw them 5 days a week. But she came up to me and told me that there was this rumour going around school, mainly around the popular kids, that I had a girlfriend, and that the girlfriend in question was my actual girlfriend. And I still have no idea how that got out, apart from maybe we weren't as secretive as we thought we were being, or maybe it was just a convenient rumour. I was very much the bottom of the social food chain, just like Noah is, and honestly I still to this day can't work out how they discovered it. But innocent, naive little me confirmed the rumour and said to my friend, yes, it is true, yes, I am dating this girl. And I just thought that was going to be the end of it, because I was very relaxed about my sexuality, even though I didn't really tell anyone. But fast forward to a day later, she went and outed me to my entire school. Yeah. It's safe to say she wasn't my friend after that, and I was angry and upset and frustrated on so many levels, and the obvious one being that was something that I was in control of, and it was down to me to decide when I was ready to do that. And it was also at the time down to whether my girlfriend was happy with that, as to whether we went forward publicly. So that was very much something that was mine, and it was my secret to tell, and that had been taken away from me. But I was also frustrated for another reason, and that was I did not identify as lesbian, and to my entire school that's what I was. And I knew that I wasn't, but I was around 13 at this point, and we didn't really have a term for something else, which shocks a lot of people now when I tell them these stories. But when I was at school, I was very much aware that you were straight or you were gay, and that was it. There was no in between. And I was like, well, I like girls, but I also like guys. And so in that aspect, it was a confusing time for me, because I had no word to kind of box myself into. So that got horrible and frustrating, because the popular girls in the changing rooms in PE were like, oh, we don't want to change around you, you might look at us. And I had guys who offered to make me straight behind the bike sheds, and I just got a lot of unnecessary grief that I didn't need. And I never told my parents about it. When my form tutor knew and saw it physically happening to me, it was a lot more verbal than it was physical, but there were some physical aspects to it. And when my form tutor saw the latter happen, he pulled me aside and asked me what was going on, and I told him, and he said it was one of the situations he would have to tell my parents about, and I said, no, don't tell them. And so my parents knew that I was being bullied, but they didn't know the reason why, and I wouldn't tell them. Obviously all of my friends knew, and the only friend that was really okay about it was the one who had been there the night me and my girlfriend got together. Everybody else were clearly not okay, but did their best to like avoid talking about it. And my girlfriend ended up moving away literally to the other side of the world. She moved to Africa. And then when I moved on and started dating a guy, my friends seemed to be a lot more willing to talk to me about relationships. But that particular relationship went horribly wrong, and I didn't date for the next 5 years. The important thing, which nobody really talks about, is you never stop coming out. There are always going to be new people who form a staple in your life that you will have to give that information to. I was 13 when everybody in my school knew. I came out again at 18 when I went to university, which was such a wonderful environment for me because everyone at university is so open-minded that nobody really cares. Like, I made this whole big build-up to tell my best friend at university that I was bisexual, and other people that I met along the way that I was bisexual when they assumed my sexuality, and they were just like, that's cool, good to know. And I had to come out around that time when I was getting to know a guy who is now my boyfriend, and we had to go through that whole thing of talking about bisexuality and where he kind of stood in the framework of my identity. And he is incredibly supportive. He knows that he is third in the queue behind Miley Cyrus and Tom Fletcher, and he's not happy about it, but I know that he pretends to be. And then I eventually came out to my parents when I was 21, and I came out to them through email because I was at university at the time, and I was naturally scared, hence why I did it by email and not in person. But I also, it was another one of those things, like I've said earlier in this video, I never felt the need to tell them until then. It was never a big thing, but it was only when I made this big commitment to my now boyfriend that I realised now was the right time to assert the fact that I am bisexual, and that my sexuality is not dictated by who my partner is, even though I am in a long-term relationship. And I do still question myself sometimes. I take a step back and go, I have been with this person for this many years. Am I straight? But then I see Miley Cyrus and I'm like, nope, still bisexual. And to go back to No I Can't Even, because that just got very dark and sad for a moment, that was a thing that I was reminded of when I was reading this book. And I do believe that the best books that exist are the ones that remind you of certain points in your life, regardless of whether they are good or they are bad, as long as they're not triggering. If they remind you of certain points in your life, then that's when you know that you've got a good book. So yeah, that was a very sad video, but I highly recommend you go and get No I Can't Even, because it is absolutely hysterical. And my light is flashing at me, so I need to go, but I will be back with a new video soon. Bye!